Yes, students, today we are going to learn the second chapter in history, that is New Kings and Kingdoms. Okay, and here you are going to learn about the different dynasty or the different rulers of the period between the 7th and 12th centuries. Okay, I mean to say all those ruling dynasties who ruled between the 7th to 12th centuries, we are going to learn about them in this particular chapter, and you'll be also learning their contribution in history, their contribution in development of the social, economic and cultural development of the individuals or the country during this period. Okay, as you know, this year you are studying medieval history, so we are going to learn about these rulers between the centuries, that is 7 to 12th centuries. The Gurjaras, the Pratiharas, the Rashtrakutas, the Palas, the Cholas, the Chamanas, who are referred as Chauhans nowadays. Okay, these were the different rulers who ruled in our country during 7th and 12th centuries. Okay, or between 7 to 12th centuries. So here you can see in the map, children, there are Chamanas. You can see here there are Gurjaras, Pratiharas, Chandelas. Okay, then Parmaras. These were also very much famous rulers. Then there were also different rulers. Say for example, Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. These were the prominent rulers during this period. Okay, and these were the regions where they ruled in our country, and what was their contribution in terms of social, economic, political and cultural development, that I'll be teaching you. So the emergence of the new dynasties. Okay, how did these dynasties came into existence or come into existence? By the 7th century, there are big landlords or the war chiefs or warrior chiefs in different regions, and existing kings often acknowledge them as their subordinates or samantas. That means these were the people, that is the landlords, etc., or the rich people in the country or in their regions were the people who supported the existing rulers, right? And what were they named as? They were named as the samantas. They were expected to bring gifts for their kings or the overlords and be present at their courts and provide them with military support. So these samantas were those rich landlords or the rich people in the regions of the kings who were part of the court of the king. That means they were the courtiers of the king, right? एक राज्यसभा होती थी, राज्यसभा में ये सारे लोग जो थे वो क्या करते थे, किंग के हेल्पर्स थे, courtiers थे, right? They used to help the kings as samantas, and the king had given them designation as samantas. How would they support the king? They would support by providing wealth and increasing the treasure of the king. Okay, and that treasure was used for the betterment of the people in their societies or people in the ruling areas of the kings, as well as to support the military, to make their military strong. So as Samantas gained power and wealth, they declared themselves to be the Mahasamantas. What is it? Mahasamantas. That means the Mahamandaleshwaras. They were the great lord of the circle or region. That means, as I said, they were termed to be as the great or big landowners or landlords of those regions. Sometimes they asserted their independence from their overlords. That means they overruled their independence. जो उनको छूट दी गई थी या the independence given by the king was being used in different types of misconcepts by these rulers at times. One such instance was that of the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. Deccan was the region, and initially they were the subordinate to the Chalukyas. So these Rashtrakutas were the subordinates of the Chalukyas of Karnataka. Which was the region? These all belonged to the region Karnataka. In the mid-8th century, Danti Durga and Rashtrakuta chief overthrew his Chalukya overlord and performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha. Okay, now what was this ritual all about? When this ritual was performed with the help of the Brahmanas, of course, the Brahmanas were said to be the learned persons in the societies, so always the kings use these Brahmanas as their advisors. Okay, and it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as the Kshatriya. The kings were termed as the Kshatriyas. They belonged to the Kshatriya clans or the Kshatriya Varna system. And even if he was not one by birth, that means these Kshatriyas would be reborn as Kshatriyas again, or the kings, right, if they perform this ritual, that is Hiranyagarbha. In other cases, men from the enterprising families use their military skills to carve out kingdoms. That means there are also other dynasties where what the other men do, they use their power in the military in order to conquer the other kingdoms or raise their kingdoms. For instance, the Kadamba Mayura Sharman and the Gurjara Pratihara Harichandra were the Brahmanas who gave up their traditional professions and took to arms successfully, establishing kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan. So these were the warriors, these were the Kshatriyas who gave up their initial varnas as Brahmanas. And what did they do? They became the warriors, they became the Kshatriyas, okay? And they raised their kingdoms. And which were the kingdoms they raised? They were the people who belonged to the Karnataka as well as Rajasthan. I hope you have understood this, my children. I have explained how the different dynasties, that were the Gujaras, Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, Cholas, Palas, they came into existence. Okay. Initially, these were the Kshatriyas. They took help of the landlords and the rich people in their regions in order to raise their kingdom, right? Raise their wealth, and their wealth as well as their supremacy showed their dominance in their regions, right? With that, they also used the rituals such as Hiranyagarbha, which was termed as the person who is once a king would be reborn again as a king. And this was the ritual being performed by the Brahmanas, okay, for the kings. And they do believe, or they did believe, in rebirth as well as the sacrifice. Sacrifice means you must be knowing that the Bali system they used to perform, okay, they used to give a sacrifice of the goat or a buffalo or such animals as such, right? And these were also the rulers who belonged to the Rajasthan as well as Karnataka regions. Now, how did these kingdoms administrate? That means, how was the administration of these kings in their kingdoms? Many of these new kings adopted high-sounding titles such as Maharaja Dhiraja. That means they liked themselves to be called as the Maharaja Dhiraj. That means the one and only who is the supreme king and the great king, overlord of the kings. The Tribhumana or the Chakravartin were the terms which were used for these, as these were said to be as the all-rounders. There were nobody else other than them who were very much powerful, as well as they belonged to the powerful kingdoms. And in spite of such claims, the kings also often shared power with their samantas, as well as with associations of the peasants, traders and the brahmanas. The peasants and traders, children, the farmers and the traders, who were they were the people of the communities which belonged to the societies in the different kingdoms. The traders were the merchants who used to trade their goods from one place to another, from one region to another. Peasants were the farmers, and the other apart from these, there were also other craft persons, artisans, etc. And of course the Brahmanas, who were the advisors of the king. So these Maharaja Dhirajas, who were termed to be called as the only superior or supreme kings, took help of these peasants, traders and Brahmanas, right, in order to raise their kingdoms and in their administrative aspects. In each of these states, resources were adopted from the producers, that is the peasants, the cattle keepers, the artisans, who were often persuaded or compelled to surrender part of what they produce. That means these all had to pay certain amount of tax on whatever they produce. These all were the producers, okay? And sometime there were claimed as the rent due to a lord who asserted that he owned the land, and the revenue was also collected from the traders. So the revenue in terms of the farmers or the peasants was being paid when they produce whatever they produce. They had to pay 1/6 part of their produce as the tax. The traders have to bring different gifts as well as the valuables for the kings in the form of revenue, and the landlords use these in order to collect rent or revenue from the producers, okay? Now this revenue was being used by the king in order to stabilize his kingdom, in order to make his kingdom more rich, powerful, and provide the armed forces whatever was being required for their big armies, okay? These resources were used to finance the kings to establish, as I said, as well as for the construction of the temples and forts. Now, of course, in those days, it was also been said that whosoever king showed his supremacy in terms of constructing big temples or forts, okay, also was an indication of the power of the king. So they were also used to fight the wars. They were in turn expected to lead to the acquisition of wealth in the form of plunder and access to land as well as trade routes, right? So this all wealth was used in order to increase the trade routes, in order to build new lands, right? In order to acquire these lands, that means take the lands from the producers, right? In the form of their revenue or in the form of abduction, okay? Then in order to increase their landlordships. Who did this? Samantas did this for the rulers, okay? And the functionaries of collecting revenue were generally recruited from the influential families, and positions were often hereditary. That means if one person was a landlord, right, then he would be the landlord for the next generations. His grand generations would also be part of the landlordship only. That means once a landlord is ever a landlord. Once a Samanta is ever a Samanta. And this was to be continued in generations. So that was a hereditary post. And this was true about the army as well as these landlords. In many cases, close relatives of the kings held these positions. In case if they did not have their grandchildren, then this would be automatically transferred to their close relatives. And this is how the administration in terms of the Samantas or the kings with the help of the Samantas took place during the period that is 7th century to 12th century. Children, I will be uploading this video through YouTube link on your Google Classroom. If there are any doubts on what you have learned today, you can ask me the questions, okay? Or you can message me on the group. And tomorrow, that is in the next class on Thursday, we are going to learn about the prashastis and the land grants, okay?